around about 12 noon for these live talks for those of you who are starting to follow us every Thursday. And I want to say how much I appreciate you tuning in. Our numbers have been spectacular. Some of our talks have been great. We've seen over 2,000 plus viewers on our talks. But I can tell you this, even though I'm a surgeon, I'm a urologist for over 20 years, that's greater than 2 decades, you know. And when I talk, about all of this stuff, I still have to remind you that the conversations are strictly for educational purposes. Why? Because I'm not actually your doctor. So I can't actually go in here and give you medical advice because I haven't examined you or anything like that, So I'm not your medical doctor. I am not your urologist. I'm not your surgeon. So anything that I say, if you ask me questions, understand that, is for educational purposes. And I'm gonna have to repeat this again in the talk, because I need to make sure that's understood throughout. And, that's a medical legal type of thing to make sure, you understand that, hey, this is just for educational purposes. Also, understand that our talks are focusing on destigmatizing male enhancement. All right. Because there's so much crap out there. There's so much crap out there about, what's really going on and things of that sort. So when we talk on these subjects, I try to keep it interesting, but the thing is that, let me put my code in. Okay, great. All right. So I try to keep it interesting. So, it's a little bit comical and all this other kind of stuff, but we're very serious about what we're talking about. So, please like and share, tell people about our live and stuff of that sort, and understand this is for educational purposes. And, it's pretty much an adult conversation, when we talk on that. Now, hopefully, we got some people joining us yet. Is that true, Lisa? She's trying to check and see, where we are because we try to do this on all platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, so we're trying to cover everything and Facebook. So thing is that, usually when I start off talking, I try to give people a little time to actually get in there and start our groups. But, by the end of the talk, I mean, we're up to a couple of thousand people. Yay, 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 so, but so, in the meantime, before I just jump off into this talk, you know, I can tell you that, today, what we're going to do is a little bit of a challenge test. This right here is really designed to see where you stand. All right. Because a lot of guys, talk, and this test is really focused towards the guys, so we're going to be actually asking you to score yourself. This is going to be a confidence truth test. That's right. It's really designed to see where you stand. All right. So I'm trying to really break down some barriers here. This challenge is still going to be interactive where you're going to say, would you rather, but we're going to ask you to score yourself and then we're going to look at the score gap. All right. So today there's no guessing. All right. Now, I really want you to put your number in the chat, but the thing is that some people don't want to let other people know what their numbers are and all this other kind of stuff because, this is on kind of a personal level. But yes, this is personal and we're going to be asking you to really reach deep and score yourself on a personal level about things that are really sensitive that guys don't talk out about. But the thing is, we're trying to really see where you are as far as your confidence. And that's where I need you now. If you don't feel comfortable putting your number out there on the chat, I understand, but at least keep score because at the end, we're going to ask you and we're going to tell you what's the assessment on your score. All right, you're moving my cameras around.
Instagram is not.
All right. Something's going on with our Instagram people. There's a struggle out there. All right. But I got to keep going because we got Facebook and TikTok and YouTube still rolling. All right. So, let's get started here. All right. We're going to test your confidence, and some of you are not going to like it. All right. Now, to score yourself, the score is going to be between 1 and 10 when you're truly trying to answer these questions. All right. We got 5 questions. All right. So now, question number 1. Guys, let's be real. How confident are you when the lights are on? I know. Guys, just be real about it, because I talk to guys and I always ask this question: are you a grower versus a shower? All right. And if you feel like, hey, I'm really a grower, because I don't really show well, then your score should be around about a 5. Just be honest. Because that used to be me also. Understand. I'm Dr. Fussell. UroHard for men. Bigger, longer, harder. That's what we do. And the thing is that I've had my procedure done twice. Because I didn't like where I started out. I was like, I'm more of a grower, not a shower. But once everything showed up, I was good. But starting out, and I'm gonna tell you, as a urologist, I see it all the time. I'm getting ready to do exam. I'll say, okay, sir, can you stand up, drop your pants for me? We're getting ready to do exam. I'm going to check you. And then at that point, when they first drop their pants, they're stretching themselves, whatever, and, sometimes I get little comments like, oh man, that thing don't shrunk up on me. Yep, probably did. Yep. Especially if you haven't been using it. And we've talked about that kind of thing, or the room is really cold. Yep, that's true, and you're just trying to stretch it out or whatever, to the point you're not even comfortable, dropping your pants in front of the doctor with the lights on, you know, grower versus shore. So what's your confidence level? Maybe you're a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. All right. I'm not joking. Keep the score or put the score in the chat if you're bold enough. Because some guys, they're really private. Other guys, like, I don't really care. But, this is a confidence truth test. We're looking for a truth. All right. Now, if you got questions, you can throw your questions into the chat, and I'll stop for a second to answer your questions as we go through these 5 questions for you. You might have some questions for me. All right. Now, question number 2. How often do you second guess yourself? You're like, what are you talking about, Willis? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You know, you thinking like, hey, you know, am I going to be too small, or it's on my headset? Yep. For some reason, that was all coming through my headset. All right. So, how often do you second guess yourself? All right. You know what I'm talking about, right? When you're second guessing yourself and you meet somebody special, whatever, and you're kind of concerned about, you know, hey, is she gonna say, is that all? You know, so I'm a little concerned. You already don't want the lights on. You're already worried about, grower versus shower. Am I gonna really show up? Things of that sort. So you feel a little pressure. And if you're second guessing yourself, guys, you know what that is? That's another form of anxiety. Remember? And we talked about this. All right. Because I'm a doctor, let me get technical. All right. Anxiety affects the central nervous system. And we've talked about this before. The autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic versus sympathetic side. Anxiety affects you sympathetically. All right. And in the sympathetic state, when the autonomic nervous system takes over in the sympathetic state, it makes it harder for you to get erection. Yep, that's right. Our talk is about educational purposes. And what I'm trying to do is educate you. So If you have anxiety and you're worried about if you're going to show up, you're second guessing yourself. It's already working against you. And you're most likely going to have a problem. You're not going to perform well, especially if you're worried about, is she going to think I'm too small or whatever or something down that line? You know, those things will work against you. You got to understand what you're actually doing to your body. When we start talking about erections, it takes four things to get it. Well, really three things. And there's a fourth. You got to have good blood flow. You got to have good nerves and you got to have desire. Those top three. But that number four, that's the psychological component. That's where anxiety kicks in because it's bothering you here. It's the mental component. All right. So you can have great blood flow. Your nerves are intact because nothing's been done surgically or radiation or anything like that. Your testosterone levels are good. So you're hitting on all three cylinders, because that's what it takes to get a good erection. But you don't perform. Why? Because anxiety took over. So if you say, I never have anxiety, you should score yourself as a 1. If you like, man, I have anxiety all the time. Yeah. I'm worried if I'm going to actually be able to get a good erection, or I'm worried if I'm going to be too small, or, am I going to be able to perform this time? Something of that sort. All right. That should be a 10, guys. All right. Let's be real. This is a truth test. It's a confidence truth test. All right. Question number 3. Here we go. Do you feel like you're enough without trying to prove it? Oh, that's real. So, yeah, you got to go in there and you feel like, hey, I got to go all out because I want her to remember me. Why? Because you're concerned that maybe I can't really satisfy her or something down that line. Now, are there any comments about that? Throw your comments in the chat. Understand, this conversation is strictly for educational purposes. All right. We're trying to educate you by helping you to really look at your confidence level. All right. And remember to like and share as we go through this whole thing. Now, the question, do you feel like you're enough without actually trying to prove it? Hey, if you feel like, you're always enough, that you're the man, you're great, then maybe you should give yourself a 10. But if you know truthfully, I don't always feel like that. Okay. Then that score should be much lower. Maybe it should be a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's be real. It's a confidence truth test because we're going somewhere with all this information. That was question number 4. All right. Question number 5. All right. Now I got you got to really think about this. If nothing changed and I stay the same size that I am, my erectile dysfunction is the same way it all, how would you feel 5 years from now? Would you feel like, man, I should have done something about it? But I did nothing? That's a 1. If you feel like I'm good, I'm glad, I'm happy where I'm at, I don't need nothing, my erections are great, and all this other kind of stuff. I love my size, I'm the man all the time. Okay, you're a 10. If you're in between, then you need to score in between. Maybe you're 5, maybe you're 6, maybe you're 4, 3, 2, 1. But the thing is that give a true answer because we're trying to go somewhere with this. Now, like I said, you can put your numbers in the chat. Some guys don't feel comfortable putting all their numbers in the chat, but at least keep score. Now, it's time to add your scores up. We asked 5 questions, all scored on a level of 1 to 10, and total up your numbers right now. I need everybody to total up their numbers. All right, because we're going to talk about what these numbers really mean in this confidence truth test. All right, now here we go. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Any questions in the comments while before we get into evaluating these numbers?
Does this procedure have any side effects?
Oh, okay. So somebody was asking about the procedure itself. Does it have any side effects? Well, the thing is, we've done over 19,000 cases, and guys have done well. I've done cases from guys all over the United States, California, Texas, Miami. I've done guys internationally, Virgin Islands, from Africa, that they've flown over and all this other kind of stuff. So, thing is that we haven't had any problems with side effects. It's a biostimulant that causes the body to make its own natural collagen. Just like most other fillers, the filler goes away in about 6 months. But what you're left with is your natural tissue. All right. So basically, it's just like a woman putting filler in her lips. But the difference is that filler goes away and her lips go back down to the same size. And then she has to go back, to get another set. You see that all the time. All these places that, they're going to get all the cosmetics done. The difference with us is the filler goes away, but what you're left with, because it's a biostimulant, is your natural tissue. So the size you gain is your size for life. And we haven't had any problems with reactions or anything like that. It's a patented formula. So guys do well. Like I said, I've actually had a procedure done twice myself. I just finished up doing a procedure within the last 30 minutes. And that guy's already on the road going back home.
So one came in late and missed the question. So can you just read all 5 questions again real quick?
Okay. All right. Somebody entered late and they asked me just to kind of go over the.
On Instagram because we were late.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So bear with me because I know you've been adding up your scores. But if you were late, I'm just going to kind of quickly go through this so we can get to the crust of what we're trying to do. Because this is a confidence truth test where you score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. All right. All right. Well, basically, 1 is like never, 10 is like all the time. All right. The first question was, how confident are you with the lights on? If I'm never confident with the lights on, then that should be a 1. You know, it's a body issue. Basically, I'm concerned, and basically, because what we focus on here at Your Heart for Men is male enhancement. So, you know what I'm talking about. How confident are you with the lights on? All right. If you say never, then it should be 1. If I'm like walking around like I'm the nude beach kind of guy, then maybe it should definitely be a 10. But some of the guys on the nude beach, I'm like, man, you shouldn't be out here. But the thing is that, how confident are you? How often do you second guess yourself? As far as, performance, will I be able to satisfy her? Am I going to be enough? Am I too small? Am I going to have a good erection? All this other kind of stuff. If it's I never have those problems, then you're a 1. If yep, I have those problems all the time where it bothers me, we talked about anxiety, then your score is a 10. All right. And we talked about how anxiety works against you. All right. Do you feel, question number 3, do you feel like you're enough without trying to prove it? All right. If you say, I always feel like I'm enough, I ain't got to prove nothing. I'm the man all the time. It ain't no question in my mind. Okay, maybe you're a 10. But if you're like, man, I don't know if I'm really, babe, how was it for you? Was it good? You really kind of worried. Maybe it needs to be a 1. Okay, it's a 5. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's be real. All right. Fourth question. How comfortable are you being fully seen? All right, that's when you're in the nude. Are you the kind of guy that walks around the room? I'm cool with that. Or are you the kind of guy that says, hey, I'm great with going out here to the nude beach or whatever? Are you that kind of guy that say, hey, man, I'll drop my pants in front of anybody? You know, because I know, but if you're like, I'm worried because I'm a grower, not a shower, and it's cold in this room and things might be a little short. Okay, then maybe you should not be giving yourself a 10. And then the final question, number 5, was that if nothing changed, how would you feel 5 years from now when you know you could have actually done something about it? Do you think you would be happy staying where you are? All right. If you say, I'm fine, I don't need, okay, well, fine. Give yourself a 10. I don't want to change anything. I'm happy where I'm at. Now, let me give this point here because a lot of guys, and this is for my married guys out there. All right. So you've been married maybe 10 years, 20 years. If you're like me, 30 years. And you've been married, for a significant amount of time and you love your wife. It's a beautiful thing. Intimacy between you and your wife is great. You're comfortable with her body. She's comfortable with your body, but the thing is that what happens a lot of times in cases like that is that comfort can slip in and things can become mundane. Why? Because we always do it the same way. We always do it around the same time of day. We do it in the same positions and all this other kind of stuff. And, she gives her same reactions, whatever, but it ain't that like wow factor in there because we've been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years plus, you know. And then I talk to these guys. I say, hey, we started talking about male enhancement. Oh man, I'm good. I'm good, man. I've been married for 20 years. I'm good. You're the dude who really needs to do something. Why? Because now you're comfortable with one another, and then all of a sudden you enhance it. You change the whole bedroom. Everything changes. That's what you call keeping it spicy. If you're the guy who says, oh, I'm good, man, I'm good, I don't need to do anything, you're the guy where it becomes to the point where you wonder why she ain't really interested. She ain't trying to get with you. You always asking. She's always, because it's always the same. There's nothing exciting. The intimacy, the sexual, but it ain't, it's a sex. It's the same all the time. Spice it up. You're the guy who needs some enhancement. Change the game. It is a beautiful thing when you're with the one you love and now you take her to a higher level than you ever did before. That's what we call changing the game. Now, I think I just went over all 5 questions. Now, we're ready to tally up. All right. Each question was good for 10 points. Now, if you're under 25 points and you're saying, then that means you're avoiding something. 25 to 40, you're aware, but you're not acting. You're not acting on it. If you're 40 plus, you're closer than you think. But understand this, none of this matters if you don't do anything about it. Let's repeat, under 25, you're avoiding something. 25 to 40, you're aware, but you're not acting on it. 40 plus, you're closer than you think. All right. Put your put your totals in the chat if you care to share. Put your totals in the chat.
I just got to hear this comment. Someone said, that's why you got to add a little violence to the bedroom.
Okay. Somebody said that's why you got to add a little violence to the bedroom. Yeah. I believe in taking it to the next level. And that's truly, I always jokingly tell my guys, push her to the edge, just don't let her fall. That's changing the game. All right. And if you see somebody walking around with a UroHard hat, you realize that they changed the game. They're on a whole nother level. Now, here's the truth. I'm finna mess with your head. Here's the truth. Most men don't actually lack confidence. What they lack is certainty. They're not sure of themselves. Because I've seen guys out here, they walk in, they all muscled up, whatever. When you start talking about, the sports and how they can perform as far as sports and, yeah, but they don't want to let you know. And we've seen confident comments, in the news where, word got out that, this is big old guy, but, the carpet don't match the curtains. So the thing is that no, he got some confidence issues, even though he might be all muscled up. All right. And that certainly shows up everywhere. It does affect your confidence. It affects your confidence in relationships, because you got all this bravado, but you can't back it up. It affects you in how you carry yourself. Sometimes you wonder how he get her, how he get her, how he keep her. What is it about him? Yeah, he got presence. He fills the room, if you know what I mean. All right. It affects your performance. It affects your performance in the bedroom because you're not certain about yourself. It's certainty.
Dre says, OMG, I need help. My numbers are very low.
So the thing is that if your numbers are low, you don't fix this by ignoring it. I'm going to give you a chance to take action on this whole thing because this is actually a confidence test. It's a chance for you really to look at where you are and say, hey, I want to make a difference about where I am. You only get to live once. You get one time through this life. Why not go through this life being a big guy, having a BDL, changing the game? No, you want to spend your money on a Rolex. If you do what we talking about, they'll buy you a Rolex. All right. So if you're trying to guess where you stand, then you need to come and get some real answers. And the best way to get some real answers about what you can do to change the game is to call us. We're Your Heart for Men. That's yourheart.com. All right. Go to our website, which is UROHARD.com. All right. Or you can just call us directly, 478 225 9324. If our lines are busy or nobody can pick up at that time, we even have an AI system that will take your information so we can call you back. And it can answer questions. So the phone will always be answered. The question is, can we get to you directly if you say, I want a human conversation? Well, yes, we just got to call you back. But that's why we got AI system in there. If you ask us those questions, like where you're located or whatever, then yes, AI will tell you where we're located, all this other. If you ask questions like how long does it take to heal? And yes, AI is going to answer those questions and all this because we got all that set up. Or you could actually go to our website and talk to AI directly and get your. But if you want, the actual interaction where you have a human on the phone, please set up a consultation. You can do that through our website, where you go to our website and you just click, and then you can actually talk to us directly. Sometimes you actually end up with me on the phone. So this whole thing has been personal. What I'm trying to do is get you guys to really look at yourself personally so you can say, this is where I stand. All right. Or you can say, hey, I don't like where I stand, and realize that, hey, you can change the game. That's what we do at Your Heart for Men. There's a question.
And this question's been out there for a while. Does it hurt? How long does the procedure take? And how long before you see results? So it's a 3-on-1.
Does it hurt? How long does the procedure take? And how long does it last?
How long does it take to see the results?
Oh, well, you see the results immediately. All right. Because when we do always do what we call the great reveal. You can see that on our website. where we're doing the great review. I think we got it in Instagram, where guys get to see what they look like now. And it's like that wow factor. We got a guy in there screaming like, oh my God, that's me. That's all me. Yep. Yep. That's you, bro. And it's on soft. Yep. That's you on soft. It's going to change a lot more when you get a full erection, but yes, that's you on soft. And then the thing is that if you go in there and look at our videos, you'll actually see where guys fall asleep doing the procedure. Well, trust me, if I'm hurting you, there's no way in the hell you're going to fall asleep during the procedure. Why? Because I'm a urologist and I know how to do a penile block. So we block everything. You don't feel anything. Guys are laughing, they joking, they're singing to the music, whatever. Some guys actually take a nap. I've actually got a recording where a guy's snoring during the procedure. And the procedure lasts for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Did I answer all those questions? Was there another question for me? So the thing is that basically, guys, what I'm trying to impress upon you is that you can change the game. If you're not sure about your erections, we're the guys when the medications don't work anymore. What do you do? Where do you go when the Viagra, the Levitra, the Blue Chews, and all this other kind of stuff? Where do you go when it doesn't work anymore? We're the guys that you come and see when you know you've done a poor job controlling your diabetes and now you can't get erection. If you're a guy that's losing a toe or a foot, I already know your erections have been affected because your blood flow has been affected. That's why the toe is dying. You can't get blood flow down to the toe, so you know you're not going to get blood flow into the penis. This is an educational talk. What I'm trying to do is give you a reality check. I hate to put it out there, but hey, if somebody's you got family members or somebody out there and they had to have a toe removed, if it's a guy, yep, he's already having problems with erections. He ain't gonna say that to you, but because this is educational, I'm gonna tell you that's the case.
There's another question.
Here's
How thick can you make it?
And so there's a question out there about how thick can I actually make it? I can make it as thick as you want to be. Now, what we tell you is that when you have our procedure done, we expect you to pick up 3 1/4 to an inch in girth. All right. But here's the catch, that's the minimum. Guys are actually picking up 1.5 inches, 2 inches. But then here's the catch. Once you're completely healed up, you can actually come back and have our procedure done again and get bigger, again and get bigger, again and get bigger till we can get you up to as big as you want to be. Now, there is a point of diminishing returns. Once you get up over 6.5, 6.5, 6.5 inches of girth, then the majority of the women out there start having problems accepting your size. All right. But say that you're married and that's what your significant other likes. I got guys out there 7 and 8 inches. I mean, they're huge. They walk around with water bottles, Coke cans. I ain't mad at them. That's what they want. That's what she likes. Is there a question?
You have some people that requesting to be in your live.
Oh, requesting to come into. Okay, we're not set up for that today. But the thing is that, what I want you to do is just go ahead on and call the office. And that way you can actually talk to us directly. So the thing is that this confidence test was a reality check of where you really stand, because some guys, they're just kind of dealing with it and they're not trying to make a difference. But understand, you can make a difference. You can make a change in how you're doing and how you perceive yourself and how you carry yourself and how you perform sexually. All that's there. Our conversation has been basically an educational conversation. I'm Dr. Melvin Fussell, board certified urologist for over 20 years. This is UroHard for Men. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. because the whole thing is to destigmatize male enhancement. Because women have breast enhancement, liposuction, BBLs. What do guys do for themselves? We get a haircut, we go to the gym, we might buy some supplements. Very, very few guys go and get their nails and toes done, medi pedi, whatever they call it. I don't do that, but maybe I should. I don't know. But I can tell you that, hey, we thank you for joining us. This is Your Heart for Men. And you know how we always wrap it up. Horns up. That's right. That's what we do. We keep those horns up. Why? Because everybody wants a bigger horn.
I want to say next week we're not going to do Thursday. We're going to do Wednesday.
Oh, Lisa wanted me to just tell you next week we'll be going live on Wednesday, not Thursday. We got to do a little switch up just to handle some other stuff that's going on in our office. But thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it. So we're signing off. Thank you for your time. Horns up. Change the game. Your Heart for Men.